Do you ever feel like you outgrow your surroundings? This could be specifically a place, right? Like a workplace, or perhaps your house, you're ready to move somewhere else. Or it could be particular people. Maybe you feel like you've outgrown your family or the partnership that you're in or your friend group. Or maybe it's a recreational group you're a part of, like some, volleyball team or art club or book club or whatever it might be. Regardless of the thing you've outgrown, I think all of us have been through situations where we feel like we've just outgrown something that we're currently involved with. And the trouble begins when we don't know what to do with that. We know we don't really fit anymore. We know that we've got bigger goals and dreams, and that there might be some even grander capabilities and skills that we could build if we were just somewhere that fit us better. Jay Shetty talks about places having energy, and that can be the energy of an actual physical place, like the state, city, or country that you're located in, or even just the neighborhood. Or it can also be the space that you share with particular people, whether that's a partner, coworkers, family. And it is true that no matter where you go, you will have obstacles and things you need to overcome. But it's also certainly true that there are places where you could function overall more peacefully and creatively. And that applies to the people you're around, the weather, the city, the neighborhood, the state. And so what I'm going to focus on today is, number one, how to recognize when you've outgrown a space. So that simple recognition, and as usual, I've got some stories for you and some practical tips for how you come across that recognition. And then the second thing is going to be, okay, well, I've recognized that I've outgrown this. Now, what do I do? Do I either leave this situation? And so if you want to leave the situation, I'm going to give you some practical tips for how to do that, as well as how to kind of manifest or start going toward where you do belong. And then number three, maybe it's a place that you've outgrown, but you don't want to leave it yet. You don't want to leave it yet because there's still some value there. There's still something that does contribute to your highest self, to your highest potential. And so it's like you can't throw away the whole thing or walk away from the whole thing, because there's still some genuine things there that can cause you to grow and live a healthy life. So I'm going to cover all three. So again, recognition, how to know when you've outgrown a place. Secondly, how to leave and move towards the place where you do belong. And then thirdly, if you do want to stay, how you can kind of shift your energy and focus toward the pieces that are building you up and serving you. And the perfect place to begin with this is the inspiration for the title of this episode, Plant-Based Uncrustables. Now, if you don't know what Uncrustables are, it's about the fakest peanut butter and jelly sandwich you could ever buy. They come in multi-packs, okay? So like a box, and then there's individually packaged little alien saucers. And what I mean by alien saucers is about the fakest bread that you could find. They look like somebody, kind of paper mache'd two very thin layers of white bread together and shoved in some peanut butter and jelly. And let's be honest, like, peanuts are one of the least healthy nuts that you could eat, right? Like, they still have some nutritional value, but they're not as healthy as some other things. And also peanut butter, right? You're adding in some more sugar and fat. And don't even get me started on jelly, right? Like, it's pure gelatinous sugar, okay? So that's what Uncrustables are. And to add an even more kind of depressing note to it, Uncrustables are what was served at my elementary school, like when I was a child, to kids who ran out of lunch money. How sad and othering is that? Oh, well, either you're poor or your parents forgot to, fill up your account. So while the other kids are over here eating turkey and gravy, you're at the other table eating your sad little alien saucer Uncrustable. Okay, so it's a shitty meal, and I'm a vegetarian. Okay, so I eat a lot of truly plant-based things, right? So things based on plants that grow in the ground or grow on trees. Okay, lots of vegetables, beans, fruits, things like that. And since I'm a vegetarian, I shop in the plant-based section of my local grocery stores. Now, one that I go to regularly is Target, all right? And I don't know what the hell is going on with supermarkets nowadays. It's probably somehow tied to our current political atmosphere. But what is happening inside those stores with what they have available? What used to be in the plant-based frozen section of Target was bean-based products, bean-based burgers and salads and things like that. Recently, the last couple times that I've gone to Target, in the plant-based section, guess what they have? Nothing but box upon box of Uncrustables. No actual vegetarian plant-based meals to be found. Tell me, what exactly is plant-based about an Uncrustable? Now, I kindly asked the Target employees as best I could, hey, what's going on with the plant-based section? All you got over there is some Uncrustables. What happened to all the beans and, actual plant-based food? I don't know. They had no answer. They couldn't tell me. I asked the actual supervisor of the whole thing, and they had no explanation. Even when they keyed in the product into their little handheld computer, it was like, yeah, these products, these plant-based products you used to buy are popping up, but they're popping up at $0, which means we don't have them. Okay. Will you have them again? I don't know. So there was literally no explanation for Uncrustables being the plant-based option at this grocery store. And I thought to myself in that moment, yeah, I might have outgrown this place. I'm currently living in a place where that's my plant-based option, Uncrustables, and no one can explain it. Okay. I think a lot of times when people picture someone quitting a job or moving or leaving a relationship, they think that it happens in this big dramatic exit, right? Where it's like, fine, I'm leaving. That's based on my 5-year-old son when he gets irritated with my 2-year-old son not playing the way he wants to. But you know what I mean. We've seen it in countless sitcoms and dramas, right? Where when somebody finally leaves or, quits their job, it's a big dramatic thing, or they kind of go a little bit crazy, right? Like they unhinge a little bit and then are asked to leave. Or, of course, breakups are always portrayed as dramatic, or when somebody walks away from their family, it's dramatic. And I think more often than not, real life isn't like that. And so sometimes people think, well, I don't have anything big and dramatic building, or I'm sensing something isn't right here, but I don't know, I don't have a big enough sign, so I'm not going to walk away. They kind of like dismiss some of those like little sparks of, their heart kind of talking to them and saying, hey, you might need to move away from this. Often in real life, it's nudges, it's feelings, it's our intuition that kind of speaks to us and says, hey, you got to maybe walk away, shift your focus toward this other thing. And to kind of emphasize what I mean, I'm going to tell you a story about like what finally led to me quitting teaching. Now, there's a lot of like dramatic things that could happen. I could talk about the systemic issues with education and budget cuts and layoffs and safety issues and all that stuff. But ultimately, what it came down to, because I actually walked away very quietly on a Monday. I didn't make a big scene. I didn't, have a dramatic exit. I just kind of, at the end of the day, said, yeah, that's enough. That'll do it. And what it was, if you want to call it the final straw, is some students were throwing mousetraps in my classroom. And they weren't necessarily the snappy kind. They were this, so no one was going to snap their fingers. They were the sticky kind. But I was in a situation where people were being given the opportunity to read books and improve their writing skills. And instead they were choosing to throw mousetraps at each other. And this isn't after or before school. This is in the middle of class. And I thought, yeah, that'll do it. I think I've outgrown trying so hard in an environment where this is what people would rather do. And it was kind of this quiet recognition of, I need to walk away. Now, those are some of the quiet moments I to look for is like, are you kind of just feeling like, hey, my effort isn't really being reciprocated here? That's a good sign. Or, hey, I've actually brought my best to this. I've done the best that I can. I've improved everything that I can. I've tapped into this resource, brought up this concern. And this can apply to your workplace or your friend group or your family, where maybe you've brought things up, as kindly as you can to people, and it's just not changing. Maybe it wasn't kind sometimes and you've erupted at people occasionally and that still didn't change it. Whatever it is, it's like, I've been trying really hard. I've been asking for help and things just aren't getting better. I don't know. Maybe this just isn't for me. That's a good sign that it probably isn't for you. But I think the reason most people don't walk away is because they're scared of the vulnerability involved in walking away. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I know that it's risky, and I know that we all have to pay the bills. I also know that paths can open for you when we take risks. And for me, financially, it was the right time to walk away. I'm not rich. I don't have years worth of savings. I have enough for my family to get by. And that was enough for me to quit. So you can't wait for the stars to align. Sometimes you just have to listen to your gut and be vulnerable and go, do I have enough to get by? Or if I don't, can I figure out how to get by? And if the answer is yes, then go for it. Because here's the reward. Things kind of worked out for me. You'll find that when you take a risk, it can be really scary, but if you're doing the right thing, you're following the right path for you, things kind of come along the way to help you out, right? I talked about that and learning that in that Les Brown book, It's Not Over Until You Win. He talks about that, how like your earthly angels will kind of come to help you. And when I walked away from that job, I had some savings, but some other money from like past sources just kind of started coming in, and it was enough to get me by. And everything didn't become clear all at once. This is what I knew when I quit. I knew that I wanted some space to actually focus on my kids instead of just feeling like I'm running around from one appointment to the next or one activity to the next. I wanted to actually stop and see them. And I wanted to pour my creative energy that I used to put into my lesson plans into something that people would actually see value in. Rather than throwing mousetraps, I wanted my creative energy to be appreciated. Now, I've lived in actually a pretty quiet life the last few months. And it has felt lonely at times. But you'll hear Ed Milet talk about that too. Sometimes the path to success can be a lonely one because very few people actually go for it. But I have found a lot of peace in the last few months. And so I kind of quietly walked away from my job. Some pieces fell into place with money. And even though everything isn't answered yet, I have met some beautifully inspiring people. I've gotten connected to an art center near my house where I've met fellow writers and artists who've helped me grow and have helped me feel seen. And I've gotten time with my sons. And my sons were harder for me to parent because I'm tired, right? Like my daughters are older. I've been through the baby and toddler and pre-K stages before, and I was tired when it came to my sons. But walking away from my job gave me some of that energy back where I can actually see them. So I've had a very quiet life the last couple months where I've been able to get connected with people in my community, not far from my house, who are also fellow writers and authors. And you've heard some of them on this podcast. And they're very inspirational people. One who's very near and dear to me will be on Friday, and I can't wait to introduce you to her. She's someone who I met because I walked away. I've been able to learn more about the kind of people my sons are. And I've been able to read. I've always read, but when I was teaching, I couldn't read all that I wanted to. Now I'm in a space where in addition to writing, I can read 3-4 books at once and slowly digest the information. And so what I'm trying to say is like the space that I needed was one that was more of solitude. I actually needed to get out of the spotlight a little bit and just be in my home. Focus on my family and focus on those in my community who shared my values. So to help you kind of tap into the practicality of this, listen to that voice that kind of says, you know what, this isn't working. I've done all I can do. I need to walk away. And don't wait for things to be perfect to walk away. Tap into your resources. Check and see. Maybe you don't have $20,000 of savings, but you have enough to get you by. Or maybe you find that, okay, I can pull my kids out of daycare. I can cut this expense and just work part-time. And that will open up some space for me to kind of reevaluate my goals. There's a way. I promise you there's a way. So don't be afraid to listen to yourself and walk away, even if everything isn't perfectly aligned. And you will find that within even a few weeks, days, and months, you will start getting the gifts of vulnerability. You will start getting the rewards of the bravery that it takes to walk away. And for me, what that reward was more energy to put towards the things that did fit me, the things that I was growing into. I could put more energy into experts. I could put more energy into the people who inspire me because I wasn't being drained. I could meet people who shared my values of creativity and I could learn from them. And it was all about reaching out to like my community, looking around. Okay, who's around me? What's around me? Where can I get plugged in? Oh, there's some writing classes. Okay, sure. And be humble. It's like I've already, some people sometimes don't join something because of arrogance. Like, well, I've already published a book. I don't need to go to a writing class. Maybe you do, I can tell you, like, I'm an English teacher and I've published books, yet I still wanted to go to a local writing class. There's so much to be learned everywhere you go, and we never know too much, So be brave enough to step away, look to the resources around you, and then start to recognize the gifts that are flowing towards you that also give you a hint about where you want to go next. So that's kind of how you walk away. You listen to yourself. You listen to that nudge, and you can quietly walk away. You don't have to wait for a dramatic moment or a big sign or to get pushed so far that you snap. Because I was getting to that point where I was going to snap, and I thought, you know what, not going to do that. And this can apply to whatever the situation is. If it's not your job, maybe it's your family. Maybe you need to step back from your family and start investing more in your neighborhood, or again, maybe there's a class at your local community center, art center, whatever it is that needs your attention. Maybe you have like a community garden near you. Start going and planting stuff. You'd be amazed at who you meet. Whatever the group is or situation is that you need to walk away, listen to yourself. Try to see how you can make it work, and then pay special attention to the doors that are opening because you backed away. Now on to the second piece. Well, what do I do if I don't want to walk away because there is still some value to this situation? Okay, so let's say it's your job, where it's like, no, I don't want to quit this job because I still feel like I'm making an impact here. Well, that's just a matter of shifting your focus and shifting your energy. And I have 2 examples of how I did this. When I wasn't ready to quit teaching, I was starting to feel a little bit drained by some of the groups that I was a part of when I was teaching, but I didn't want to quit because I still felt like it was right for me to be there, and I still felt like the impact that I was making on the students was important. And so that's what my episode all about the closet is cozy focuses on, is instead of just continuing to put energy into complaining about the people who I didn't fit with, I reflected on somebody who I did fit with. And instead of isolating myself or calling my husband to complain, I would go and find her, my dear friend and mentor who worked at the school. And I would chat with her and grow with her. And so sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, if I'm not feeling like I'm fitting in with this particular circle, who can I step back and notice? Who also maybe seems to be a little bit of a perceived outcast? or who maybe has removed themselves from some of these circles. Maybe I can align with them. And don't get caught up in, well, they're not in my department, or, they're 2 floors away. It's not convenient. Jay Shetty often cites a study. I forget who did it, but he cites a study where they interviewed the most innovative people in businesses and tried to find what their common trait was. And that was that they knew people who didn't know each other. And the whole idea is they expanded their circle to get diverse ideas rather than just going to the same circle that all knew each other, because then you get into sort of a group think kind of thing. So you might be surprised at the multiple layers of gifts that follow you if you shift your focus towards somebody else. And so sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, I feel like I've outgrown this group. Who can I maybe collaborate with or talk with or bounce ideas off of? Just keep your eye open. Be looking for people who might be innovative like you, or who might be a little bit of outcast like you, and start putting your energy into them. And it takes some time, and that's okay. Another example that I have is actually of my dance class. I've been going for almost 5 years now, 2 to 3 times a week, and it's a very high intensity cardio dance, and I absolutely love it. And I love it because it's a great way for me to obviously exercise, get my endorphins going, and also build muscle toning too. It's nearly the perfect class in terms of just the structure of the dances and how they build up, again, both your, endurance and physical stamina, but also just the muscle tone. And it also challenges my brain to learn the moves, but also taps into my creativity, because once I know the moves, I can kind of add my own flair. Now, originally when I joined this class, I was close friends with the instructor as well as several of the class members, and eventually built up enough confidence to dance in the front. And I loved dancing in the front. I loved feeling like the spotlight was on me a little bit, and I was really social with several of the women in the group. But what started to happen is I noticed that some of these circles were getting really gossipy. And it would happen a lot where someone would come up to me and be like, I know you won't tell anyone, so I'll tell you. And everybody was gossiping about everybody. And it didn't feel great. And it was really draining on my energy to be a part of these conversations or to get caught up in it myself, or feel like, and I had a couple situations where I thought I told someone something in confidence, and lo and behold, the whole group knows, and now there's this big dramatic text chain going on about it. And I literally felt like I was back in high school, and it was like, okay, this is kind of making me dread going to this thing that I love. I've kind of outgrown this social group because I don't really want to be a part of a group that I can't trust. If I tell my friends something, I want to know that they're not going to, that they're going to keep my business to themselves, if I ask them to. I also don't like how drained I feel when I kind of have somebody's personal business thrown at me, and then, knowing that the person that said it is going to go back and, pretend to be friends with that person. Like, it just felt yucky and draining. And again, I got to the point where it's like, I don't even know if I want to go anymore, because this is getting a little too messy. So I thought about it, I recognized, okay, this is draining me now. This thing that used to energize me and build up my self-esteem is kind of now becoming draining, and I don't know that I fit with these friends as well as I used to when the class kind of started. But what do I do? Because I still want the exercise. This is the best exercise that I've ever had, and I don't want to lose it. Well, I thought about my goals. What are my goals in dancing? To keep up the exercise and take care of my body, but also to connect with myself. Because part of the thing about this dance class is when I was in the front, I connected with myself, meaning it's like, yeah, I'm good enough to be in the front. And that kind of fed my self-esteem a little bit. So I thought, okay, how can I still go to this class, get the exercise, and connect with myself? And you'd be surprised at how simple the answer was. Move to the back. And some people might let their ego get in the way. And occasionally I still do miss my spot in the front, because you also kind of get the most space in the front. But if you let your ego get in the way of I was in the front, what am I doing going to the back? It's like that can prevent you from actually all the joys that kind of a position can offer. Because here's what happened when I moved to the back. Number one, I wasn't so concerned about who might have been looking at me, because when you stand in the front, you really feel like you got to bring your A game, and you're putting your energy into hitting each move exactly right. And when you're in the back, you don't care as much. Not as many people can see you. And so instead of putting my energy into how I looked on the outside, I could focus more on what was going internally. And when I moved to the back, I could more easily leave before somebody would try to pull me into a conversation I didn't want to have. Like I could kind of just slip out a little bit more easily. So that was the other reason for going to the back, is just like, okay, if I go to the back, I won't be approached as easily, but also I can shift my focus. Now, my moving to the back also kind of aligned with when I was starting to learn about Tony Robbins' method of when you're really trying to manifest a new core belief about yourself. You're trying to really manifest a new belief, switch from I'm worthless to I'm worthy or something like that. The best thing is to recite that mantra, that statement in your head when your body is in a physically elevated state, which ideally happens during exercise, right? And so I thought, you know what? This is actually the perfect opportunity. Now that I'm not so focused on hitting all these moves, now that I'm in the back and some of that pressure is off, now I can focus on connecting with myself through these mantras. Instead of worrying about who's going to say what to me, I can just come to this dance class, connect physically, and work on my mantras, work on kind of manifesting and pulling in all of these things that I want to believe about myself. And now over time, I've grown to love it. So here was a situation that I felt like I outgrew, but I didn't want to leave. There was still some value to it. And it was just a matter of moving to a different spot in the room, shifting my focus from the gossip to my own goals that I was working on. And the more that you kind of separate yourself from a group, the more, like, it might be tough at first. At first, they might try to really reel you back and get in your face about it. But if you can outlast that and say, no, I'm okay over here, eventually they'll give up, and put their energy into people who do kind of want to get involved in whatever they're doing. And I'm telling you that from direct experience. So maybe for you, it's not a dance class, but it's your family. Maybe instead of sitting next to the loud person who always annoys you and pulls you into political debates you don't want to have, maybe instead you sit by your quiet grandma, or you sit by, that cousin of yours who's kind of always reading in the corner, and you ask them what they're reading. Sometimes it's just, or maybe you offer to help your mom or dad in the kitchen with the dishes. Sometimes it's just a matter of moving to a different spot in the room and reevaluating your goals. Why do I come to these family events? Who can I move towards that will help me meet those goals? And often family events are about connecting, right? So it's like, well, I come to this family event to connect with my family. These people don't seem so interested in connecting. They seem more interested in debate and talking about themselves. Well, who listens? Who's quieter? Maybe you shift and go over by them. There's probably somebody who you've overlooked in the past because someone else was louder. But you'd be amazed at what happens when you just move to another point in the room. And the second part of this is focusing on your own energy, right? And I found a way in my dance class to, okay, I come here to exercise my body, but also to connect with myself. And right now, what am I trying to do with myself? I'm trying to get some new core beliefs anchored. Okay, well, I can do that if I stand back here. So where's a place where you maybe just need to move? You don't need to leave, but you just need to move. Maybe you're experiencing that in your own house, or with your partner, where it's like, I love my partner, I love my kids, but I just need a little bit more space to feel like myself. Maybe you just need to go take an art class, go take a dance class, or go take a 20-minute walk alone. Don't be afraid to ask for that time. A partner who respects you will give it to you. Even if they don't give it to you perfectly, even if they're like, oh, okay, and they're kind of stressed by the kids, it's not that they don't want you to be happy or to have your thing. They're just stressed by life. So don't be afraid to ask, or to make space for you to do the thing. And so to kind of summarize all of this, you will find that when you make space, your own goals become clearer. When you figure out, okay, I don't fit here anymore, where you do fit becomes clearer. And it's not all just like when we leave something, it's not always a big dramatic boom. Your dreams coming true or your manifestations unfolding are not always dramatic either. They happen over time. I keep using spring analogies because it's spring in Minnesota right now, and so there's all kinds of beautiful growing things happening everywhere. I mean, it's amazing where there was just once dirt, where I now have a 3-foot fern. And it's all happened within a few weeks, but you don't always notice every day the growth that's happening, even though it is. So just know that like a lot of our biggest decisions, whether it's to leave something or manifest something, they are happening over time. They are moving. We just don't always see the big movements that are happening, but we definitely feel them and can turn and look one day and go, oh my God, I'm so glad I made that decision. I can tell you right now, I'm so glad that I quietly walked away from teaching. Even though it was terrifying. I didn't know if everything was going to fall into place. And I had to deal with a lot of sadness and guilt of leaving my students. You know, there were several there who weren't throwing mousetraps, right? Who were sweet little pumpkins who wanted to try. Unfortunately, the mousetrap tossers were just louder. And so, you know, it was hard to walk away. There was sadness and guilt and a little bit of fear because I didn't know what was next. But even just a few months later, I am so glad I did. I'm so glad I did, because it opened the door for me to get connected with people who did share my values, whether that's the people that I connected with in books or the people who I met at my local art center and my kids. So don't be afraid to be a little uncomfortable for a while. Success doesn't come with the snap of your fingers. Happiness doesn't come for the snap of your fingers. You've got to be willing to be vulnerable. You've got to be willing to take some risks. And most importantly, above all else, listen to yourself if you're feeling like something just doesn't fit anymore. Now back to the Uncrustables thing. Okay, really, like, that's more than anything just a confirmation that I need to move out of this state. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of wonderful things that I just listed to you about Minnesota, and if you live here or you're thinking about moving here, good for you. I hope, you get connected to some communities, but it's like, dang, no. It's just further confirmation for me that all the steps that I'm taking to move out of state, I should continue taking, because it's like, I want to live somewhere where, my local supermarket has actual plant-based food. So whatever your dream is, whatever your goal is, don't be afraid to take some risks. And you're already taking a really good step by taking the time to listen to me. And I hope that today I've encouraged you to recognize maybe some things you've outgrown and to have the courage to step towards the places where you belong. And in the meantime, as always, I want to thank you for coming.